Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Justin Crone, and I am a student at the University of Louisville in the Organizational Leadership and Learning program. Prior to enrolling in the program, I worked as a contractor doing home improvement for a total of 5 years in Cincinnati, Ohio, Jacksonville, North Carolina, and here in Louisville, Kentucky. Today's objective is to train the class on the steps involved to properly caulk a kitchen sink. This process will be formed step by step with the use of my personal kitchen sink and my wife Jenny's participation. Now, many of us are homeowners, and as a result, we are responsible for any and all home improvements. This can quickly lead to a large number of man hours dedicated by contractors to help fix many small issues. On average, a contractor can charge up to $150 an hour. By learning the correct technique to waterproof your kitchen, you can save a few $100s immediately by not having to hire someone to do it yourself. I think I spent around $20 for the materials for today. You will also save thousands in the future by preventing serious water damage. Plus, as an added bonus, by learning how to caulk, you will be able to waterproof many projects in the future and save even more time and money.
What other projects can this be used for?
That's a great question, Jenny. Thank you. You can use this for really any seam that's going to be around water that will not be totally joined. Anything that water could seep into, lay a bead of caulk, and it'll make it waterproof. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to begin by showing some signs and symptoms of leaks and damage that can come from them. Water leaking from around your sink can lead to big problems. One of the first signs that there's a leak is you might have a musty smell in your kitchen, have some water stains in your cabinets here. If you see evidence of a leak, it is important to investigate immediately and find the source. If the leak starts and is not handled, this is when that serious damage can occur. You can get heavy cabinet and countertop damage to the point that it needs to be replaced. Water leaks can lead to mold in the caulk. With the caulk going this way, water staying in there can lead to mold in the countertops. And after too much time, it can destroy the entirety of your cabinet. Now, I would like to go over the various types of caulk that are available. It is important to understand the different types of caulk. There are kinds for kitchens, for bathrooms, doors, roofs, concrete, many more. First, we have a Quick Seal Ultra. It is designed for areas with plumbing. It is mold and mildew resistant, and it repels dirt, grime, and soap buildup. It needs to dry 4 hours before contact with water, and this type is not paintable. The next kind we have is a quick drying caulk. It's used for doors and windows and molding, generally for gaps that are smaller than 3/8 of an inch. It's ready for paint in about 20 minutes. It needs 24 hours to dry before exposure to water. The third kind I would like to show you is the more heavy duty. It's an interior exterior, and it's used for siding, gutters, windows, and can be used to fill up a gap up to 1 inch. It needs 2 to 4 hours to dry before it can be painted, and generally cures when the paint dries. I also want to point out that there are many colors that you can buy. Today I have clear, white, and cedar tan. You can buy black, various shades of gray, and many shades of brown, gray, and many other colors. Always ensure you're buying the right color. There have been numerous times where I've done all the prep work and I was ready to go. I cut open my tube of caulk and I was ready to lay my bead, and I had the wrong color. Do not do this. Do not make the same mistake that I have. Let's go over some of the tools we're going to be using today. First, we have a utility blade. We have rubbing alcohol and some rags, painter's tape, caulk in the correct color, a caulk gun, and a couple of wet rags for cleanup at the end. For safety reasons, we want to use latex gloves for the chemicals in the caulk, And as always, whenever doing any home improvement or using any tools, safety glasses. Also, I want to point out, be prepared to wear clothes that could be ruined. This can sometimes create a mess, and it can be tough to get this stuff out. Before we get into the process, there are many tips and tricks out there for how to do this. I recommend going to familyhandyman.com and getting more information if you would like. It's a very useful website. Now, in the interest of time, I have already prepped 3 sides of the sink. So, to begin, we're going to ensure that the sink is clean and dry. It's dry, I've let it sit for a couple hours to make sure that there's no water in there. Then, we're going to take our utility blade and we're going to cut out the old caulk that's in there. Now this can be sometimes kind of rough because it gets really sticky in there. Just keep working it, keep running that knife, going along the countertop, along the sink top at different angles. You know, you want to run it at a 45 and then run it flat. Make sure you cut all that caulk out. Now that we have the caulk out, we want to use the rubbing alcohol and we want to clean the edge. Clean the edge, get all that old caulk out, make sure we get everything out of there. Good. Now we want to let that dry. We don't want to put tape on the wet alcohol. Now, while this is drying, I want to show you, we're going to apply painter's tape around the sink edge, on the countertop and on the sink. You want to leave a small gap all the way around.
Why do you apply the tape that way?
That's a good question, Jenny. 1 second. We apply the tape this way so it minimizes the mess where the caulk can go. Leaving just a small gap there, the caulk can only make contact on the sink and countertop right there. Cleanup is so much easier that way. Now that it's dry, we're going to take our painter's tape and we're going to finish applying that around. This does not have to be one solid piece. It can be a lot easier to break it up into smaller pieces to create your full line there because this tape can kind of run on you. Keep that in mind. Wonderful. Now our tape is installed all around the sink. We're going to take our tube of caulk that we're going to use. We're going to take our utility blade and we're going to cut a small 45-degree angle to open up the tube. And we don't want to cut it too big so that way too much doesn't come out. Just a small hole. Going to need a tool to puncture the sealant that's in there. Now that we have it open, we're going to load it into our caulk gun. When you load it in the caulk gun, you want to put the pointy edge out first and then push the back until it stops. Once we have it in the caulk gun, we want to set the angle up, the 45 degree, to right along the edge of the sink. And we're going to apply a thin, even bead, and we're going to be sure to push it, not pull it. If you do get some buildup on the end of the caulk tube here, use one of your wet rags, wipe it off. That'll help keep some of the mess down to a limit. Yeah. Now that we have the caulk in there, we want to dip our finger into some water, and we want to run it along that bead. We want to make sure again to push. When we push, that's going to push all that caulk down into that seam and make sure we seal it so it's watertight. Again, you're going to put the glob, grab your wet rag, and wipe it all off. There we go. With it all pushed in, we can remove the tape. When you remove the tape, want to be sure to pull up at a 45-degree angle so that it's a clean break from the caulk. Okay? Sometimes this tape can be very sticky and not agree with you when you want to take it off. Just have some patience, it'll eventually come off. Wonderful. Now that we pulled the tape off, we can see that we have a nice bead. It is white. It'll dry clear once it does dry. Grab another one of your wet rags. We're going to use this to remove any caulk that ended up, here on the sink I got some, or over on the counter, or, up on the cabinet, or on the dogs, or the kids. I understand that's a very common occurrence. Do not freak out. Take a deep breath. Grab your wet rags, and before it starts to dry, go ahead and clean it up. Now that we've finished, let's recap the process we went through. Our first step, make sure the sink is dry and remove the old caulk. Jenny, what do we do after that?
Wipe the edges down with rubbing alcohol.
That is right. We wipe the edges down with rubbing alcohol, let that dry. After that, we apply the painter's tape, leaving a good bead, and then we apply a small bead of caulk and onto the sink. Now, do we push or do we pull that caulk, Jenny?
We push.
Yes, we do. We make sure when we push, we want to make sure that caulk gets all the way in there. Remember the next step, Jenny?
Wet your finger and push the caulk to seal it?
That is right. By wetting it, make sure it won't stay on you, and it'll push it in there, and it'll just be really nice and smooth. Then you remove the tape, wipe away any of the excess. I want to thank you so much for your time and attention today. With this information, I challenge each and every one of you to try this new skill in your house. You can take pride in your accomplishment and use your money for actual fun. Thank you.